And there we go. We are live after our very first intro.
Slowly but surely getting there. It's turning into a
Soon we'll run this on TV.
I don't think it's quite going to be like that. Well, hopefully.
Mr. Arnold Kwizera, welcome to the show. How's it going, bud?
Going great, my guys. As a Liverpool fan, of course, everything has to be going great. Yesterday, celebrating Springboks 1 year of winning the World Cup. So it's a good. I should have been in my box jersey today for my debut. But yeah, it has been great. It has been a good time for me.
We should have had a special episode.
Keegan. Yeah. But I think I'm going to get the Mets over the weekend and get a proper braai in and put on our Springboks jerseys. We still do the Box Friday here at times with my mates at work. So, yeah, still celebrating about the Box.
Where are you now? Are you in Rwanda at the moment, or?
Yes, I'm in Kigali at the moment. Actually, tomorrow I travel to Kampala, which is Uganda, which also has a very strong rugby culture there. Yeah, and I just keep moving all over the place, man.
and you said hopefully December you'll be back this side.
Yes, December I should be in KZN.
KZN, nice. So
not as nice as Cape Town, but getting there.
Yeah, it's like second best to Cape Town, I think.
Yeah, it's the second best coastal city.
Can you guys fill up your stadiums now?
No,
mate, we can't even have one person in it.
Yeah, I was actually at the Kenilworth horse racetrack earlier today, and even there they don't allow. We were allowed into the boxes there, but you're not allowed spectators at the racetracks either.
Well, COVID or no COVID, Cape Town stadiums are usually empty, man. So hi, man. It's the same situation.
What do you mean? The seven.
Look at your teams. Look at Ajax. Look at. Okay, I think Cape Town City is the only sensible team coming out from there. It's guys just don't watch sports.
The Stormers are the only team that gets a crowd. I don't see the Bulls filling up Loftus.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's filling up Ellis Park.
If you watch a Bull game, you will see a whole bunch of people dressed up as blue chairs.
That's very true.
But
talking
we'll
about
see.
the Blues, they took us.
After COVID, people would realize that maybe we took live sport for granted, and hopefully we'll see stadiums fill up again like they used to.
Yeah, I think it's make us realize so many things told were there for comforts and not just there. We need to go out and enjoy them, support the sports, support artists that set up concerts. I think after COVID, it's going to be a big lesson for humanity.
We've got, and I were at Newlands Cricket Stadium the other day for a press conference with the Cobras, and must say Newlands is eerie with no one in it. Like it had a very weird feeling about it. Like this time of the year in Newlands, there's normally there's cricket happening. There's normally every second week there's something happening at Newlands, and it was just had this weird feeling about it. It was actually quite strange.
And sad. And I think also this is going to give an opportunity to the boardrooms to ensure that there's more sponsorship money going down into the sports, because I believe this was the last year of the of the Stormers playing at Newlands, right?
Yeah.
And has that plan changed?
No. They're off to Cape Town Stadium, I think from.
So that was one of the topics I wanted to bring up, is that they actually yesterday announced that Cape Town Stadium is being renamed now to DHL Stadium. So they signed a deal which obviously is linked.
So they sold the stadium rights.
That's it. which is a good step in the right direction. Bit
Yeah,
of
look,
money.
I'm sure it's going to bring in a lot of money, and I'm just happy that the stadium is going to be used more now, because obviously the PSL teams play there from time to time, but we all know what the viewership is like, or at least the live viewership is like in the PSL. It's not at all where it should be. So I think it's going to be great to have a fuller stadium, hopefully a completely full stadium on a sort of weekly basis.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite interesting. I hope it's well. I hope for the best. Like, obviously, I'm a purist, and I'm really going to miss going to Newlands for rugby wise. But I do understand things have to change. But let's hope that stadium gets more action now, because I do think it has become a bit of a white elephant over the past few years. And if it's the odd music festival and the odd PSL game doesn't really do much.
Yeah. You know what I've realized is one place, we've lost Arnold. One place where I found they've done a great job with the stadium is in Durban, where there's almost like a little shopping mall underneath the stadium on the outside. So there's a whole bunch of shops, and I know I think it's a Virgin Active gym, and so there's a lot of hustle and bustle going on outside the stadium every day, basically. Whereas Cape Town Stadium, if there's nothing happening, they just lock the gates and that's it. And I think they've really missed the opportunity to do a bit more with the stadium, not necessarily having events, but just doing something around the stadium, you know?
I think what's great, or what would actually be quite cool, and I actually thought about it a few times, is like a market on that outside area of it.
Yeah. So that's similar to what they've got a whole park in Durban. There's a whole park, and you can go for a walk there, and you can go cycling, and I know they've got that in the surrounding areas around Cape Town Stadium, but you can't. It's nice to get a feel to where you can actually go like right up to the stadium, you know. And they've got that bungee jumping thing, which I've also done, which is quite amazing. So there's a lot more there that just brings people towards the stadium.
Well, hopefully now with the Stormers moving there, and obviously we're going to have a lot of Bok rugby there, and things like that. Hopefully that brings all these added extra little things now, and hopefully it like that stadium does get a lot more use. I mean, we know for a fact with rugby and that I think test matches are going to be quite a vibe there. I think that'll be quite. We just got to pray that we sort our situation out with what's happening with these franchises of ours. Are they going to Europe? What's happening? You know, the whole situation.
Yeah.
We're going to have a strong Curry Cup. Are we going to go back to the old ways where, you know, Boks actually play in the Curry Cup week in, week out and have a strong domestic competition? So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
That's what they should do. I think I told you and Bucky's the other day that they really need to, they should have used this COVID situation to really boost up the Curry Cup. And I know they've just announced I don't know if you saw that, they also announced a new sponsorship for that.
I heard there's a Canadian beer.
Yeah.
Brewery.
Yeah. So obviously I mean, that's always a good sign.
I know the big guns are playing this year. I know like all the Boks will be playing in the Curry Cup this year, because basically it's the only rugby they're going to really see, other than the Super Unlocked that's currently being played.
Yeah. So I would really love for that to continue past all of this. Is to, you know, proper provincial rugby where people I've always felt that it's almost like people take a little bit more pride for the VP than they do the Stormers, even though it's such a similar situation. So yes, Njaka's correcting us, the DHL Cape Town Stadium. So I was actually going to ask you guys, Keegan. I know you piped in on Twitter to this conversation that I saw happening, where from a media perspective, what do you feel are the obligations of the media to, in terms of, when stadiums change names like this because of sponsors? Do you think they've got an obligation to now start calling it DHL Stadium or Six Gun Grill Newlands, or do you think it's fine if they continue, just calling it Newlands or Cape Town Stadium or whatever the case may be?
No, I don't think it's right. I think you have to change. Things change. Names change. Like people change. Like companies, when companies merge with other companies, or when companies rebrand and change names, you don't refer to them as the old ones. You got to go, and I think it's a touchy subject. And like I've said, I've thrown my weight behind it, and I said, it's some publications and some people are going to be like, no, but if they don't really spend money with us, so we're not really want to punk the brand or whatever. But it's irrespective of that. That is now the ground's name for the next 3 years. That is what you got to call them. The Cape Cobras. It's not the Cape Cobras. That's not the name, because it's on it's changed. It's Six Gun Grill Cape Cobras. That's the thing. It's voter. It's like on a publication. You shouldn't be able to. You look at like the Bulls. It's the Vodacom Blue Bulls. You know what I mean? The DHL Bulls. Like, I think you have to use these things, and I do understand. And I saw Reese pumping, and we're all good. Like, Reese's been on the show a few times, and Reese said even that she's happy with even to mention it once, which is fine, but at least mention it. I agree with her there. Like, I understand sometimes in a story, so Varsity Cup, you have F&B Varsity Cup, then F&B Marties and F&B Ticks. I understand. It becomes a bit
redundant, yeah.
Yeah, it becomes a cluster when you're writing something. But most people that follow the Varsity Cup knows F&B probably sponsors the every team. So just make sure you address the competition right then, at least.
Yeah. So I must say, I do agree with that, and I do agree with what Njaka's saying here is these guys are these brands are investing so much money into the sports that we love, and it almost feels like we have an obligation towards them to, use the correct or the branded name, if you can call it that.
At the end of the day, the sport is paying your salary. Like, if you're a journalist, if the sport is not there, there's nothing to write about. That means you can't get at the end of the day. So I totally agree with you, with both of you.
Yeah, I think it's very selfish for media houses to say that, just because DHL don't advertise with us, we're not gonna use their name.
Like, or an opposition spends money with us and we feel obligated not to address the team by the right name.
Yeah.
Because it's the other argument sometimes.
Yeah. So Jade basically saying the same thing, that, nostalgia and romanticism don't pay the bills, which is absolutely correct. And ultimately, the entire ecosystem of fans and media and players and franchise owners all benefit from these names, or the naming rights, or selling the naming rights.
Yeah, of course. I think it's a very old school way of thinking, if you still believe that you don't, like, I remember when I think it was at Wolves or someone, when Sporting Bet started doing naming rights to the Premier League, and St. James's Park first, or it could have been Molineux, or I can't remember, one of them. But also, like, it's almost like people would refuse to have Sporting Bet, like, say Sporting Bet, like St. James's Park or something. There's like, we refuse to do it in the way, and it's always going to go that way.
Yeah, I think especially for your older stadiums, like, obviously Newlands, it's an institution, whether it's the cricket grounds or the rugby grounds. I think it's easier for something like Cape Town Stadium, and it's also easier if it's DHL Stadium, which is, it kind of rolls off the tongue, where Six Gun Grill Newlands is going to take some getting used to,
But I'm telling you, people are going to call it the S, like, in Australia, got the SCG.
Yeah, Newlands. I could get
exactly. And you know what? If you're not using that as a punting line, and if you're not using that as a marketing tool, then we've just given you some free advice there. So, there we go. Change from Sports Direct. That's correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah, fans went absolutely ape about that, the Newcastle situation. But, like, you look at it and you go, you have to. I mean, DHL were lucky because DHL Newlands just worked perfectly.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's all about, I don't know if Loftus, can't remember. Does Loftus has one? Loftus is Loftus. I don't know if it's Vodacom Loftus or whatever. Probably is. Right, but yeah, I think media definitely have a obligation to use names, and I think brands should keep them, and I think franchises should keep them in check as well. Be like, please, can you X, Y, and Z? I think it's got to go, like, you've got to keep them in check as well. You can't just let them get away or things like that continuously.
Yeah. I think the ironic thing is, I bet you if you had to go and look, especially from the fans' point of view, I bet you the fans that are most hard-assed about something like this is probably the guys that don't even go there every week and actually support the team financially.
Probably. We like to have a little up. We've got this thing called social media, so people like to just get angry about anything, and also like to. The people that throw the biggest opinions about stuff, you never see those people in the stadium. So, that's how it works. So, I think it's a right thing to do, and I think it's a great. I think Morné, it was a great little thing to put out there. I mean, I know he's in media. He's obviously a sports presenter and been on radio.
Just tell us who put it out there, because I can't remember where I saw it. I just saw it.
It was Morné Esben put it out there on Twitter.
All right.
So I think it was a.
Sorry.
I don't know if I'm quite 100% which. Morné's at Heart now, but he's been around the radio game forever. Yeah. And it's a great question. I think it was a good thing to put out there, because I think it's a good debate to have.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Then obviously last night, some funny news coming out of Wales about your ex-United boy. Don't know if you.
Can I be honest with you? I've read the headlines, but I have not read the story. Like, I don't even know.
The story that I read last night was that Ryan Giggs.
First of all, is it from the Sun?
No, it was. I can't remember exactly where I saw it, but it was multiple. Yeah. It's legit. Yeah. It definitely happened. He was arrested. The police were phoned to an address or whatever, where a female, I think they said she was like 34 years old. I don't think they said who she is to Ryan Giggs. But yeah, basically domestic disturbance was phoned in, and he was arrested on suspicion of assault, basically.
Please, not another family member story.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what happened there. I must say, I think he got away with his previous family scandal in terms of how the media sort of underreported it at the time compared to some other scandal, like John Terry's little romantic escapade, if we can call it that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, obviously, it's a misunderstanding or whatever. If Ryan Giggs did fuck up, then hopefully he gets punished the way he should.
Like I said, I haven't read the story, but I saw on Twitter though that Wales cancelled the press conference that they were supposed to have.
Yes, I was just going to say they were supposed to announce their squad today, and I was actually wondering last night how they would handle that. And they also said at the time last night that they had no comment because they hadn't sort of spoken to the relative or relevant parties and all of that. So let's see. Jade's saying it's legit. He won't take Wales for the next 3 games while the investigation is underway. Okay, well, that's fairly standard. I mean, they obviously can't allow him to manage with something like this hanging over him.
But if he still played for United, he would have had the armband still.
Yeah. Well, if the Harry Maguire situation, or maybe he would have been someone made captain.
Possibly.
Apparently, that's what United.
Yeah, I don't know what you know what. Like I said, let's see what the outcome is. He's also not he's been in the limelight before, so let's see what comes out of it. Like I said, I read the headline and I was like, oh, is this one of these tabloid situations, or you know how it goes? And
yeah.
I actually wanted to read up on it, and then I actually just totally forgot. It didn't even keep me that interested.
That's the problem with these, especially with celebs, when allegations come out like this. Like, obviously, you want to believe the victim, and you should believe the victim, and you know, the law should take its course, and you know, decide what really transpired. But it's so difficult because the media also hype things up, and then so many times it turns out to be nothing. And yeah,
sometimes like the headline just puts you off enough. Like, you look at the headline, you're like, that can't be true. Just like how the headline's written.
Yeah, especially if it's on the Sun.
Yeah, it's just like, it's weird things. Like, you just look at like the headlines, you're like, oh, you can see it's digging. There's like, it's reaching for something.
Yeah.
And then you must decide, are you willing to go down that rabbit hole?
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see. Listen, if he's in crap, then he must be punished badly. But we'll see what it comes up.
So then, speaking of United, wow,
can we not speak about United? Can we speak about Chelsea this weekend rather?
Yes, for once we can. Yeah, super disappointing game, regardless of the result. Even though it was a good result for Arsenal, first win in whatever 14 years or something at Old Trafford, excruciating to watch.
It's terrible. After what I watched in midweek compared to that, the worst part of it all is like, I look at like the chances. Yes, they hit the top of the crossbar and things like that, and there were a few open shots, but it wasn't like, I don't know, I looked at both like teams and there was nothing. It was like a game just being played in the middle of the park.
Yeah.
Is it?
No, it was shocking. I mean, I really had, that was going to be an exciting finish to my weekend. And then I sat here and I was like, what is this? And I ended up watching the whole game, but I really shouldn't have. You
wasted a solid 90 minutes of your life.
Yeah, I might actually invoice the 2 clubs or the Premier League for my time for that.
Yeah, it was terrible. Like, I actually don't even know what to say. Like, my thing is this: it's just, it's players. It's picked the wrong system. It's like the wrong. For me, like it's a system I want to see us play. But you can't just. Was it going to work against Arsenal? Maybe not. Like, do you play almost the same side, two sort of like? Do you play the same side 2 games in a row in the same week? Like, it just didn't make sense to me at the end of the day. Like, it was like, surely you change things up. Surely you need to adapt. If Rassie taught you something from chasing the sun, have a game plan for every single game. Don't play the same game the whole time.
Yeah. Well, look, if we look at Jade's comment, I'm definitely not going to disagree with him on that. I think you might. What is your feeling about Ole at the moment? I know obviously the problems is bigger than him.
Yeah, he's no worse than Frank Lampard. Literally.
No, I'm not. I just feel that
but he needs to start taking blame now. Inconsistency has become a part of his teams since he's taken over. They can blow people away, and then they can be utter mediocre. Okay, and unfortunately, you got to start shifting. The players are to blame just as much, because who's the only people that can take control of inconsistencies? Players. You got to, as a player, you got to be more consistent. But if you keep picking the same people, as a manager or as a coach, if you keep picking an inconsistent player, you are just as much to blame.
Yeah.
So
you need to get that consistency out of them as well from a mental perspective, and show them that it's not okay to be this inconsistent. And if you are going to be, I'll throw in a fucking youngster who at least looks like he wants to play, even though he's going to probably make some mistakes. At least he's learning.
Exactly. And I look at it and I'm like, the blame goes everywhere. Like I can't blame Ole. I can't just blame the players. It's a whole collective that something needs to be done. And Kurt and I know we've talked about it, and people will be like, we spoke about being positive, let's be positive. But like, it's the same shit all the time. We've seen the same shit every season. Like, we can go blow teams away. When the pressure is really on us, then all of a sudden we can perform. When we're expected to do quite well, because to be honest, and I said it and I tweeted, and people were like, how could you say? I said, that was a bang average Arsenal team. I'm sorry. That was an average. Sure. Like, the side we put out there should blow that Arsenal team away. It should happen. But it's forever like, yeah, I understand. Like, I do understand what I was saying, but I also say that, like, the players, I don't think today's generation of players are going to react the same way as well. I think that style of coaching is gone. Like, really, if you want to have that style of coaching, you need to bring in those type of players that can react to the coach screaming at you every 5 minutes and that. That's why Simeone only brings in certain type of players to Atletico Madrid. He brings in hard players. He brings in players that you need to scream down their throats, to get a reaction out of them. But I don't think that's Ole, and I don't think any of those players in that United dressing room, if you had to scream and shout and whatever, look what happened to Mourinho. We know for a fact Mourinho is that type of manager. He will climb into you.
Yeah.
And you will lose players even more. So I think that style of management is slowly but surely
done out. Yeah. The problem is, and I can vouch for that from playing club hockey, is what we ended up getting is the same thing where your older bunch of players react positively to that type of managerial styles where you're being, sworn out and shouted at, and the youngsters just take it too personally and their head drops and you lose them. So I agree with that. It's becoming difficult to do. Like, if I also agree, you should be fucking cucked out if you're not pulling a weight, but it's difficult. If the guy's not going to respond to that, then it's difficult.
Yeah, it's difficult for like us who play club, difficult for us who play club hockey, and we're not being paid for it. So it's also, you sit there and you go, you're going to have different you're going to get the 2 guys in the change room that have no problem being shut out. You're going to have 5 guys in the change room that are kids that have never been shut out in their life before. And you have other 2 guys that just don't respond to anything. So it's a different, like, that dynamic is very different. And I think, like, when it comes to the professional sports and like guys in the Premier League, I mean, if you, that manager that screams and shouts, you're going to have to go and buy a whole squad that suits your style of management. Because I think even if you get a coach, imagine Conte coaching this Chelsea side.
No.
Like, for players that you have, there's no chance those youngsters would know what's going on. Like, they would just switch off.
Well, we've already seen how someone like Kepa responded to that type of managerial style under Sarri. So it's not going to work.
I agree with Jade. Like, Ole's loyalty is why players love him, and 100%. And it's also why also he has his inconsistencies. I mean, I look at it and I know people were all over Marcus Rashford and, oh, look at this great hat trick, 30-minute, blah blah. And I said, and I was sitting with people and I was going, he scores a hat trick, great, that's awesome. His job is to fucking score goals. Okay, why doesn't he score regularly enough? Okay, he misses more than what he scores at the end of the day, but we'll never talk about that. He spent half of Sunday on the ground, the entire, like literally half the game he was on the ground more than anything else. Yet, because he's a favorite, because there's loyalty there, speaks well about the manager. He'll play all 90 minutes. And Pogba's won. He's won. Harry obviously has become a favorite now all of a sudden because he can, he's obviously done something that the manager likes, and it's
you can also apparently high tackle Chelsea players and not give away penalties. So, real asset.
Luke Shaw's another favorite that you can have an utter mare and he'll play the next game. Like, it's frustrating as hell. And I honestly think this loyalty will get him sacked. The loyalty, showing this loyalty, these are the same players that dropped other managers.
Yeah.
You need to be very wary to just allegiance to certain players.
So how close? And I know it's probably a bit of a sensational question and probably too early. But how close do you think he is to being sacked? Is that a conversation to be had yet, or?
If we are, I would say, outside the top 10 come December, no matter what the thing is, no matter where we are in the Champions League, I think he's in serious trouble. Like, even if he's like 8th or 9th, I think he's in serious trouble.
So you are, at the moment, you're 15th.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still so tight. One win.
That's why I say
1 or 2 wins, and you know.
But this is where I say, like, it's difficult. I say come December, like, when the fixtures really start going 100%, when those games start coming thick and fast at you. If we are 10th place or out of 10, like below 10, I can't see him keeping his job. There'll be too much pressure. Way too much pressure.
It's going to be super difficult because it's definitely not going to get easier from now on in. The games are going to come faster. They're already coming fast, and they're also going to be more important games. So he's going to have to.
Of course, when the cups start rolling, remember the cups haven't started rolling in. When the cups start rolling in, you've got Champions League, you've got that. You can't have these inconsistencies. You really cannot. And
especially because he's not that new.
That's a big call, that actually. That's a big call, that.
Loses to Everton. Is that this weekend?
That's this weekend. Yeah. My only thing that probably keeps his job is if we win tomorrow night or whatever, and we 1 point away from getting out the group already. I think that might save him a bit. You know what I mean? But
maybe if he loses tomorrow, it obviously becomes more difficult in the
Oh,
Champions League.
then I agree. Then the Everton one, he's under serious pressure.
Yeah, and then lose that, it becomes touch and go. Also, it's going to be difficult against Everton because they've now lost two. They had such a great start, so they obviously going to want to get a win. And currently, I have it open here. Currently, they're in the top 4, so they're going to want to stay there for psychological reasons. So that's going to be a very difficult game for you guys.
No, 100%. And let's be honest, the Carlo Ancelotti's got they've struggled the last 2 games, but also that's Everton's squad doesn't have a lot of depth, so they lose the right back. That was the first problem. Then they got a centre back playing out at right back, so that throws the balance off already with Coleman not there. Then James picks up a knock, which has been the main playmaker. So now you've lost an influential right back, which is your captain and your maker. And if you haven't got these sort of, if you don't really have the depth, squads like this are going to feel it, for a few weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's probably like it's tough. It's going to be a tough one. But watch him go. This is typical Ali though. Like now we put the pressure on him. So watch him go.
That's what they're saying here now. Watch him go 20 unbeaten.
Yeah, 100%. No, 100%. He's now under pressure. So watch him become this tactical genius all of a sudden again and just blow teams away.
Yeah.
And this is the inconsistency I talk about. That it's inconsistent from a manager's point of view, but it's also inconsistent from a player's point of view. And it's almost like a whole theme that's running through this club right now.
Yeah, well, that's obviously something that Lampard's been struggling with, but I think he's got a bit more of an excuse, if I can put it that way, because obviously last season was always going to be tricky with a lot of youngsters, and you can't always expect them to be at their best and whatever. And this season, especially in the start, a little bit up and down, a lot of new faces. But touch wood, I think he's starting. I mean, this weekend, not the strongest opposition in the world, but we played very well this weekend. We played a good system. Last week, again, not the biggest Champions League opponents, but we did a good job. And I think that's what we maybe just needed is a couple of easier games where keep some clean sheets, put some goals in, and I think we've turned that corner now.
The difference is the club is just in a better position than ours. Like when I say a better position, your club's got to shit together at this point in time, which makes a massive difference.
We spoke about that before the season started. We're just a bit of a stronger project at the moment.
It's because your behind the scenes stuff is in a better position. Like our club's rotten core and it's got into the pitch now. So believe me, you don't just change things on the pitch. Like it becomes a whole. You got to fix all the structures and you got to fix everything from the boardroom down. And yes, at the moment, I mean, there are things that you can fix on the pitch. I do agree, which will make a huge difference. But it was a circus before the season started, and you can see like how inconsistent the club is because look at how it even is on match days. We'll blow people away, and then we'll look like we're not even on the field.
Yeah. So just quickly before we move on. Is United winning tomorrow? Are they winning tomorrow?
Well, watch us win tomorrow. Watch us win like 3-0 tomorrow. Something stupid like that.
Okay.
And then Everton and then like lose 1-0.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in that case, are you winning on Sunday? Well, I don't know if you
probably not.
The weekend.
Probably not. I heard this. I see there's some talks about Mata playing tomorrow, so that means we win.
Fair enough. let's see what Jayed says before we move on to the UFC. People talk about following Liverpool's example. They've won one league in 30 years. The most successful team in England in the last 15 years is Chelsea. Well-oiled machine off the field, the best in the transfer market. Very, very little wrong. Yeah. Obviously, I'm a Chelsea fan, so I'm not going to argue against that too much, but I don't think you can argue much against that. Off the field, well-oiled, we know what we're doing. We obviously do have a bit of backing financially. The director of football, what is her name? Maria something. She's done a great job. I wasn't too happy with her in the beginning when she took over. But I think especially this window, she's proved she can get deals done. It doesn't get dragged out. There's a rumor today, tomorrow it's confirmed type of thing. It's just a question now of getting these talented players to play in a good system and to work together. And I think Frank will be able to do that. I'm not saying we're winning the league this year, but I think from next season, that's where the expectation needs to be at.
We got to, I think if you look at it, I think clubs that are really succeeding all around the world right now are clubs that have got very strong in the boardroom and very, very settled. If you look all over the world, if you look at someone like Bayern, who also, when they linked with someone, it's done. They get the deal done. They don't wait for their contracts they don't wait for their players to wait 3 months of the last bit of their contracts to sign them up again. They get that stuff done. And you look at
Ziyech, for example. I mean, he was signed how long before the transfer window was even open? They already made that deal. And I think
the Sane deal for City, or from City to Bayern, was also quick sticks, dust. He was coming in.
Yeah, and I think it was a stroke of genius to get Petr Cech involved at Chelsea, because obviously ex-player, ex-legend, and everything that goes with that. But super intelligent guy, speaks about fucking, I don't know, 11 languages or something crazy. So if you've got a foreign player and you've got someone at the club that's doing the negotiations, that can do it in your language, all of that stuff, I believe, makes a huge difference.
100%, I do. I totally agree with you. I always talk about, and I know people always go I'll say there's certain guys you got to get into the club. And people are like, oh, but what credentials does he have to be in the club? I don't give a fuck what credentials is. He knows the club that he's going to make is probably going to be best for the club first. And I think sometimes if you get the right position for certain people, they can really make it work. I'm a guy, I don't know what role I could honestly put Patrice ever in, but how that guy is not part of our club or in our club in some way or form, I do not understand. Even having that voice around the boardroom to shake things up at times is exactly what a club like ours needs.
Well, yeah, you need that guy, and even though he doesn't necessarily understand the sort of business side behind being on a board and being involved in these high-level meetings, just someone that can answer from the ground level and say, listen, guys.
Who's been in the change room, who's been in the...
This is your point of view, but what the players see and what the fans see is something different. And I agree, you have to have someone like that on every board.
I think you look at that and look at Barcelona, for instance, an utter dog show in the boardroom at the moment, and you can see it's directly translated to how Barcelona has been in the past few years. I mean, it's not been the scary Barcelona that we've all gotten to know. It's not that same feel.
And they've also been becoming inconsistent. Players speaking, trash talking the club in the media.
Exactly. But
Yeah,
watch,
I think
they sort that boardroom out, they're probably going to go. They'll probably be back to where they are if they get the right people back into that boardroom. I always say you need foot
as long
around
as
the
long as they
boardroom.
hold on to the players. Obviously, they've lost a couple of key guys, but if they can shake the board up, keep the players, there's no reason why they can't go back to where they were.
In every sport, doesn't matter what it is, you need sports people at a boardroom level at some point. And they don't need to make financial decisions, but they need to give that aspect where the finance people and the whoever runs whatever other parts of the club, like it's got to have that balance. You can't just have business people sitting down making decisions, because that just doesn't work. And we can see it doesn't work because look how some of the big clubs, have fallen by the wayside, and how they've struggled. I mean, Liverpool's resurgence and what's happening now is they've got a strong board. They've got people in the background that, yes, they are business people. They are, but they also understand the fundamentals of the sport and understand the fundamentals of getting a club to where it needs to be. And that was all the things of getting the right manager in, getting the right guy, like someone to run the transfers in, then starting to get the right players into the club. All those things add up to a point in time. Yeah. We don't have, and we will be down this shit show where we're currently at until we change that. And I don't care if we get Pochettino tomorrow, we'll have a honeymoon period like every other manager has had, and we'll go straight down the hole like we've been going.
Yeah. All right. Well, just for the record, I hope that happens, that you guys keep going down.
Thanks.
And on that note, we'll move over to some interesting happenings in the UFC. I don't know if you caught this weekend's fight card. I just saw the main fight, which was super boring. Did you watch that?
I watched the Uriah versus Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that one.
Horrible fight, in my opinion. Anderson Silva, in all honesty, has no business fighting anymore. Not at that.
Well, we knew.
Not at any level. And even I saw Dana White said he's done now.
Yeah, he is. He's gone.
The thing that
I think it was more of a farewell fight. I think that was more of a farewell fight than anything else.
Yes, but what annoys me is in Silva's mind, he still hasn't announced his retirement.
No.
So if you're going to do a farewell fight, do it properly, announce your retirement, I know it's almost like the UFC in all their messaging, just put out, it's his last fight, almost to sort of convince him to just
don't
retire.
Come back. Yeah. Please. You're a legend of the sport. You don't need to carry on.
Yeah. And the problem is what I have is obviously we can't take away what he's done in the sport. I mean, he's top 4, best fighters that there's been, but he's got no business. He's almost tarnishing his own name
But that's the problem.
Continuing to fight, and
so guys like that don't know when to end, don't know when to stop, and that's just the unfortunate thing. Like we've seen it with boxers before. We've seen it in a lot of other sports. Like sometimes these guys it's not even an ego thing. It's just that they think they can go forever. And at the end of the day, like I sometimes wonder the people they have around them, what messages they're being fed.
Yeah. And
I'm in his camp, or he's one of his friends. I'm going, listen here, mate. You're one of the best. You're a pioneer. No one's ever not going to remember you.
Yeah.
Fight reels are going to be around forever. Like, you don't need to go through this nonsense anymore. Like, you really don't. Like,
the thing is, not only is it a reputational thing, it's not safe. Like, he was lucky that his opponent also didn't really pitch up to fight on Sunday, because if you're fighting someone and you that poor and that slow and that uninterested, and you're fighting an opponent that's going to try and prove a point, you're going to get fucking serious damage. And there's a 41 or something. That's not good damage to your head.
I think the problem with fighting Anderson Silva is every single UFC fighter that gets into that ring with Anderson Silva has got so much respect for him that they don't really want to hurt him, and they hold back themselves as well, which makes the fights even worse.
Yeah. So that's essentially probably what happened this weekend, especially when
I'm telling you now, that's exactly what happened this weekend.
Yeah, and I'm sorry
that he didn't want to hurt him, and which is fine and all doing well, but then rather don't have the guy in the ring.
Dude, when he went to apologize after the fight, I was like, that's fair enough, it's sportsmanship and blah, 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 but that's not fighting.
No, it's not.
Like you said, if you don't, if this is your idol and you don't want to hurt him and whatever, take another fight. There's a lot of fights out there for you. Yeah, I just think it was a spectacle, and I hope that Dana White sticks by his word when he said that Silva's not fighting again.
I don't think he'll be fighting again. If he fights, definitely I don't think it'll be in the UFC.
Yeah, I think he'll probably try and go to a different deal. Bellator will sign him. Maybe
for a fight.
Yeah, they'll sign him just to get a couple of viewers.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? He does have a massive draw card. Like, he does bring the fans to the TV, and when you hear Anderson Silva, and like, the guy's a legend, so it will bring the views. But yeah, the fighting side of him I think it's gone now. And like, I would just not to see so. It's like, I understand the Tyson Kruger thing is a exhibition fight, the boxing match, but I really don't want to see like 50-year-old men like trying to hit each other's heads off. Like, they're both legends. They're both legends, and they've both like there's so much respect for those two and everything. And I don't care if it's for charity or whatever. I don't want to see that.
No. The problem is it goes one of two ways. Either it's going to be boring as shit because it's an exhibition, someone gets hurt. Mike Tyson is the last person in this world, except for probably the Diaz brothers, that needs another fucking punch in the face.
And you're also the last person in the world, no matter how old Mike Tyson is, you want him to hit you in the head.
Yeah. It goes, the danger goes both ways, and it's just not a good idea.
It's like, you've had your time, you've been great servants, get them involved in the sport a different way. Like, get them involved some other way.
Yeah, get them as part of the TV team or fucking anything except for in the ring.
Or do what the UFC do and make them coaches to two young boxers, and let the two young boxers, like, after a year, fight each other.
Yeah.
Like, he's been Mike Tyson, and the other one's trainer's been this, and let's see something like that.
Yeah. Then another interesting thing that broke over the weekend, we're finally going to see Adesanya go to light heavyweight.
Yeah, I posted that one on the thing, and it was like, when I saw that video clip, I was like, whoa, what? Yeah. I was like, surely it's got to be Whittaker. And I'll be like, okay, well, Whittaker doesn't really want to fight him, and he doesn't really want to.
I was just going to say, so Whittaker turned that fight down, which is crazy.
Maybe Whittaker feels he needs to get another fight in him before he fights Izzy.
Could be. That's the only thing that could make sense, except for that he just doesn't want to fight him because he might lose again. But I mean, that also doesn't really make sense, especially because he was so good coming back.
I know. Well, remember, Izzy always spoke a lot of, like, I don't want to say shit, but spoke a lot to say that, like, he won't fight Whittaker again. He won't fight Whittaker again. But he's sort of forced to fight him now because the guy that he wanted to actually fight got dominated by Whittaker. So it only makes sense in that division. You have to go the Whittaker route, really.
Yeah. You give him one more shot. If he doesn't, if he doesn't win that one, then fair enough.
Well, you don't have to. You don't have to have a trilogy then.
Yeah, you don't give him a third.
You don't have.
Dana White, according to Dana White, it was 100% Whittaker that said no, and I think Adesanya probably fairly doesn't see another challenge currently in the division for him, and now he's going to go up.
He's not giving up his title though, so he's not actually vacating the title. So maybe, just maybe the fact is Whittaker's going to have another fight. And if Whittaker fights that one or wins that one, then maybe the Izzy Whittaker fight does happen down the line.
So Avu brings up a good point, whether or not Adesanya would be the same at light heavy. Remains to be seen. One thing that would be scary for him against the bigger guys is his pace, because he's definitely going to be faster than these guys. In my opinion.
Jan is not a quick mover.
No, but when you're going to feel it.
100%, but I think Izzy's as clever as John Jones. I don't think Izzy will allow that distance to be close. Yeah. I think Izzy will use the leg kicks, the calf kicks, the inside calf kicks. I think
Izzy fights for points. If Jan gets blown out and gasses,
he'll go for him.
But I think more than happy fight for the points. Probably gets the points. Probably gets John Jones, which is what he really wants.
But John is at heavyweight now, so you can't even look at John now at this point in time. I don't think next year you'll see John.
Yeah, not right away maybe, but John will drop down for that fight, I think.
At some point, I'm pretty sure. I think where Izzy does, I think you might see Izzy try some actually weird shit at light heavyweight. You can, because he's a quicker, he'll move quicker, and he's very much a counter striker. I think you could see a lot of spinning elbow and flying knees.
His kickboxing definitely helps him a lot, or a lot more at light heavyweight than middleweight, I think.
And there's some scary guys at light heavyweight. If you look at it, like some crazy knockout artists, there's got that Johnny Walker who's crazy. He's got some wild knockouts in him. You've got like, what's the other one? Shit, I've just hit a blank now. But like in that division, there's quite a few guys that can that could really make exciting fights with Izzy as well. Just the styles that they have, like, you know what I mean. It could be very on the feet, everything. But yeah, I listen. I think I'm amped for that fight, and I don't think like
it's gonna be a great fight. I think it's a safe fight for Izzy as well, in the sense that he can go test the waters. If it works out, great. Stays undefeated, double champ, all of that. If it doesn't work out, back to middleweight.
And the blemish is only on one weight. The blemish is really only one weight category. So if it's like, if it's 20-1 or whatever, and that, like, at the end of the day, he goes back and goes, but the one yes, I lost, but the loss was
I still cleaned out my division, and I think he's cleaning out that. Well, he's going to be continuing to clean out that division for quite some time.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree with you. I do agree with Abu there. He could be a standing target should he not work, and especially if he stands like at that center of the octagon, like almost like stands, like doesn't really move too much, because I can't see Izzy coming. I don't want to say I can't see Izzy going forward, because he will go forward, but I keep like
he's going to go in and out.
I see him do Jones. I see him doing John Jones. I've seen him like using his long arms, using his legs. You know, keeping that distance the whole time.
His legs are going to be key. He's going to hit those leg kicks. Oh, and he's going to kill him with those. He's going to wear him out with that. And as we've seen in a lot of recent fights, those add up with points. So
I'm interested to see if Jan flicks it and and they go down to the ground to see what happens. Because I haven't seen enough of either fighter on the ground.
Obviously Adesanya claims to be amazing on the ground, but yeah, that would be very interesting because we don't know. We haven't seen that. Obviously, he's not going to say that he's cuck on the ground.
Well, no fighter's really going to say that. So
yeah. So
they normally go to the fact that if someone said, "Oh, but if it goes to the ground, yeah, but I have my purple belt or my black belt." That's the first answer, standard answer that they give any reporter or journalist when that comes about.
So then just finally, before we wrap this up, unfortunately, it's sad that we haven't had Arnold back. I'm assuming that he's got some internet issues, but we'll try and get him on maybe next week again. But just before we go, last week we all said we don't think we'll ever see Khabib again. And then Dana White dropped a little bit of a possible bombshell this weekend saying that,
or a teaser,
we might see Khabib again pending the approval of his mom, which I thought was interesting.
You know what? When he announced the retirement, I said to a few people I was with, and I was like, you know what? I take him as he's retired for now. His dad's dream was 30-0, but I think with what the family's probably gone through right now and everything else, and him obviously being head of the household now and basically he's got to look after his dad's fighters, all those fighters that were training under his dad and things like that. I think it will be a discussion that he'll probably have. Well, he probably will have with his mom at some point. But I say don't hold your breath and say the next 6 to 7 months you're going to see Khabib at least. And but also Javier Mendez. I watched a podcast with him, who's Khabib's trainer, aka, and Mendez. So if Khabib stays out too long, he will not recommend Khabib to fight because he feels once you've been out the game for too long, you are behind the curve. And so that's also very, very interesting because he's quite adamant that he won't ask Khabib to fight again. But if Khabib is to him and he feels the gap has been too long, the wait has been too long, he will not recommend him to fight.
So my only concern with all of this is obviously we don't know what's happening with a belt at the moment. But
Dana's adamant that the belt is not vacated.
Yeah, so that's what I'm getting to now is, in my opinion, a line needs to be drawn where Khabib makes a decision and says, okay, cool, I'm taking a year off, right? Then I'll come back. Then you can go, okay, cool, in that year we can establish either interim title or we can establish a number one contender for when you come back. But
100%.
If it's an open-ended thing, which it seems to be at the moment, he's going to have to give that belt up. They're going to have to give
100%. No, 100%. I agree with you. I guess you've got to see what Dana has to say. If Dana doesn't take that belt away at some point or a few months, then he must have been given some sort of indication that I'm coming back give me 12 months or 11 months to sort shit out. You know what I mean? Then we sort of understand. I think then we'll sort of have an understanding that the next year is going to be all about who's that number one contender.
Yeah.
Going to be carrying that interim belt.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was fun, Keeks.
Yeah, that's good. We'll try and get Arnold. We'll try and get Arnold back next week again. Hopefully.
Yeah, I'll try and get Arnold on next week. And for those of you watching, there's a giveaway on our blog. You guys can win a 6-gun grill hamper valued at R1,000. So it's a bunch of awesome spices and stuff for food and cooking. That's in celebration of their partnership with the Cape Cobras and the renaming of Newlands. And next week, this time on the show, we'll announce the winners for that. So go check that out and then have a good night.
Have a good one, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Thanks for being part of the discussion.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Till next week.